Welcome back to Lap of the World. If you're just joining us, we've shipped our NSX from the US to Europe and then taken something of a racetrack tour that started with the Circuit de la Sarthe at Le Mans, included a spa day in Francorchamps, Belgium, and then continued to the Nürburgring in Germany. We now pick you up for one last vlog from this trip as we make our way towards the Netherlands and our trip home. Hello everyone and welcome back to Bad Lip Syncing. I'm Richard.
And I'm Liz, and this is Lap of the World.
I fumbled the mic setup, so we're doing this in post. Liz and I are standing here in front of our borrowed garage in Spa. The brakes survived our lap of the Nordschleife from the last video, and the car is loaded back up as we're about to depart for our next destination.
Which is in the Netherlands.
But also in Belgium.
Yeah, but it's in the Netherlands. You know what? Whatever. It's probably easier just to show you.
After bidding au revoir to our lovely Spa rental apartment, we got on the road headed north, skirting Liège, and then crossed our first border of the day just east of Antwerp as we entered the Netherlands, before we then re-entered Belgium, and then re-entered the Netherlands, and as Liz said, it's just going to be easier to show you. This is Baarle, and it's one town that's really two, and also the largest concentration of national enclaves in the world. Defining that quickly, it's anytime you have a piece of land of one nationality completely surrounded by that of another. In Baarle, you have 22 little pieces of Belgium within the Netherlands, and then another little 7 pieces of the Netherlands inside some of those 22 pieces of Belgium. When we saw this mess of borders not too far from our route, we couldn't help but stop and make an afternoon of it. If you want a deep dive, search for Baarle Hertog and Baarle Nassau, and you'll be well served, but the short version is all this started with some feudal land deals in 1198, before the founding of the Netherlands as a country. However, even after the larger national border stabilized, the terms of numerous contracts and treaties meant that the last border here wasn't finalized until 1995, and there's a plaque on one of the many borders to commemorate the occasion. It's a neat town. We stopped for some pamphlets and souvenirs in Baarle Nassau, and then took a self-guided tour past some notable landmarks, including a single door divided by a national border, and a smuggler monument in honor, or maybe just acknowledgement, of the level of quasi-legal border manipulating hijinks that you might imagine, and that in fact did happen within this kind of political jigsaw puzzle. The towns are now governed by a single meeting of a coalitionary city council to keep a lid on things and also help commerce and law enforcement run as smooth as could be expected. Following our late morning lap of 30-odd border crossings around the town, Liz and I grabbed some lunch and coffee before heading further north and firmly into the Netherlands, our last flag for this journey. Our destination for the day, only 2 driving hours from Spa, was Rotterdam. Really specifically, the Rotterdam.
Well, after a fun stop in, I believe it's Baarle Nassau and Baarle Hertog? I think I may be pronouncing that totally wrong, but cool little town, one of the last spots that I think they finalized the last border in 1995, but it's got 30 enclaves in the whole town, so it's super neat.
That's probably walking across more borders in one little lap for lunch than I've otherwise walked across in most of my life.
Yeah.
So.
And then we ate at a cute little restaurant called Brownies and Downies.
Yep.
And their waiters, most of their waiters have Down syndrome.
Yeah.
And it was neat.
Supporting folks with Down syndrome.
It was a really cool place.
Yep. Super neat.
Too.
Tasty food.
Yeah.
And we stopped there for lunch, and now we're at one of our last destinations, which we had kind of ended up like debating this because we had plans here, and then we were like, we could just stay. But you're looking behind us there at the top of our quote-unquote hotel.
And dinner spot.
And we're going to have dinner tonight.
We're going to have dinner with Renee and Anya.
Yeah.
So
they suggested this place to have dinner, and then we looked it up, and it's also a hotel, and we're like, well, that just kind of makes things easy, so we can just kind of crash, and then, can have a beer with dinner if we want, and not have to worry about driving anywhere. But it's the SS Rotterdam. So we're going to go explore. We'll see what we can show you of that. But it should be neat. Staying on an old school ocean liner for a couple of nights. Conveniently located outside of the Rotterdam City low emission zone, avoiding the need for any special pass for the NSX to drive there, the SS Rotterdam proved an unexpected highlight on what was otherwise a period of wind down for us. There was a geeky fun in spending a couple of days on board, being treated like first-class passengers as we ventured out into town and then returned in the evening to our comfortable but still period-looking cabin. The ship spotters among you will be ahead of me here, but the SS Rotterdam set off on her maiden voyage in 1959 as a proper transatlantic ocean liner. 228 meters long, displacing 31,000 tons and capable of over 20 knots, she plied the Atlantic for 30 years before transitioning to cruise service. After some changes in ownership, she was eventually berthed in Rotterdam and was open as a museum, hotel, and dining attraction starting around 2010. Even if you aren't a nautical nerd, I could see this being a fun way to get a taste of some mid-century travel nostalgia with no need for the Dramamine. After arriving mid-afternoon, Liz and I checked in and did a little exploring of the ship before meeting our Dutch hosts in the Rotterdam's club room for dinner. After that fun evening, Liz and I woke the next morning, took a water taxi to mail a care package, and then ventured into the city to see, well, the city. Amid the surprisingly orderly hustle and bustle of what I found to be one of the least inoculophobic cities that I've been to, Liz had drawn another impressive pull from the deck of random attractions in Miniature World. I've seen some large train sets and dioramas in my day, but this was both impressive for its scale and its content. In walking around Miniature Rotterdam, reading plaques and pressing buttons, I probably came away with some decent multiple of my understanding of the city and surrounding country. At face value, this might look like something that you bring your kids to or save for a rainy day, but honestly, it was worthwhile. Following a little more light urban exploration, Liz and I wound our way back to the harbor front and reboarded our hotel for the evening, enjoying another lovely dinner, this time on the Lido Terrace on the ship's stern, before watching the sunset over Rotterdam one last time before departing in the morning for Amsterdam. Having left Rotterdam fairly early and still having some time to kill before our appointment to drop the NSX back off to make its return journey, we stopped at the Kinderdijk Heritage Site to take a walk and talk to the camera.
Well, good morning, and after a couple fun nights on the SS Rotterdam, and then after touring around Rotterdam for a little bit, and even getting to see the miniature version of Rotterdam.
Yeah, which was very interesting. We are now out here doing something completely touristy and looking at windmills on our last day or two in the Netherlands. But so we're about to head up and drop the car off. So we'll take you along for that ride. But this has been fun, and for now we're gonna continue enjoying some great weather today. Just here, what are we, like, just east of Rotterdam, I guess?
Something like that, and maybe have a stroopwafel or two.
With the sea windmills while in Netherlands box checked, it was now on to Amsterdam. All right, and with that, our NSX's adventure in Europe, at least, has come to a close. We have dropped it off with Cars Worldwide people here in the Netherlands, just outside of Amsterdam, where they have taken the pictures beforehand to make sure it's it arrives as it departs. And then we ourselves will head back out here after spending, I think we got a day in Amsterdam, so you might see a little bit of B-roll from that. With the NSX deposited back in the care of Cars Worldwide for its return trip, we used our last day in the Netherlands to kick around Amsterdam a bit. We ferried our way across to check out the NDSM area's Harborside Art District. This would be a cool stop if you're into the hypocrisy of commercializing so-called street art. We dutifully snubbed the paid entry for the Art of Banksy exhibit in solidarity with the artist's opposition to using his work for profit. Sorry. I tried. It was a bad joke. We're not that level of art aficionado. We still didn't pay for the Banksy exhibit, but it was more because it was 30 euros and still very hot inside on an already warm day. There actually were some cool and also free exhibits in the area, large installations, and a bunch of small maker spaces and legitimate street art and graffiti gallery. The area was a fun vibe, if a bit crowded for my personal taste. We snagged a sandwich in the shadow of a tower crane that you can rent out as an Airbnb, before heading down the river a little ways to check out a Formula One exposition, because it's the Netherlands, and I always hesitate a little going into motorsports related quote-unquote attractions because it's not uncommon for the subject matter to get incredibly dumbed down for mainstream consumption. However, I was pleasantly surprised by the quality of information and depth of information on display, never mind some of the really interesting hardware. Liz and I both ended up listening to some majority of the audio-on-demand presentations and left feeling like it was worthwhile and we learned stuff. Having maybe deepened our appreciation for the Premier Series in road racing, Liz and I got back on a train to our hotel, and then on an airport shuttle the next morning, and then on a plane lifting off from Schiphol Airport, destined for the US. As we went wheels up, our NSX was being recontainerized for its own return trip, destination New York. From there, we'll pick the car up, and then it'll be a race to get the brakes sorted and oil changed so we can depart for Seattle and NS Expo. We hope you've enjoyed joining us for this first true Lap of the World tour of sorts. If you want to hear more about the nuts and bolts of how we did everything around shipping the car, consider subscribing, as That video, or maybe a series of videos, are upcoming on the topic. For now, though, thank you for watching. I'm Richard. This is Lap of the World, and we'll see you in the next video, if not back in the US.